want to do is page 3 of the book, and I love this book because there's only 3 pages, so how easy is that? So this is page 3. This page is actually 10 by 10, which was the original plan. Oh, Rekha, that's all right. You can't craft and look after grandchildren. I know that. Hi, Gillian. You are very welcome here. Hi, Mary. You've only just been... Mel, I've been telling you all day. Evening, Terry. What's the weather like with you over there? Very muggy here. It's not nice. No, I'm asking Terry. Oh. It's much more interesting in Florida than in Hensford. Evening, Mary. Right, page 3. So this one is actually 10 by 10. And it's got a little flap, because we like our flaps, don't we? It's got a little corner pocket here. And it's got a pocket here, which actually has got another one of our acetate fronts on it. So we'll be doing that. And then the back, this is 2 sort of just tags that go into, these are 2 separate pockets, even though when I've decorated it up, I've made it look like it's just one, with acetate fronts. So that's what I want to do tonight, and I'm hoping that we're going to have time to have a look at some of the inserts, because next week I would love to get this book finished, and we'll obviously need to put the pages in. Evening, Anne. Evening, Sally. And then have a look at the front as well. So that's what I want to do this evening. So I don't know if you've got your cutting guides with you, but it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing complicated about these pages at all. Evening, Michelle. Do you know what, Mark? My picture is still really good, which is amazing, because you just wouldn't think these things would last 2 minutes. Mark had to sort out the resolution on my screen last night, and it stayed the same, which is brilliant. So we need to cut our page base first. So I want you to cut a piece that's 10 by 10. But actually, what I want you to do is cut a piece that's 10 and then more like 9 7/8. So it's just under, just ever so slightly under. And I'll explain why in a bit. Okay? So you've got one that's 10 by 10, but actually 10 but just slightly under. And I want you to cut a piece that is 11 by 10. So you're going to have to cut these out of 12 by 12 pieces. So 11 by 10. Now that will form our base page. Oh, evening, Kerry. I've just been talking about Thirsty Brush. We might as well cut what goes on the front as well. So we'll cut our little flappy bit, which is 7 by 10 inches. You could cut this actually out of A4 card if you wanted. So this is going to be our flap. That is 7 by 10 inches. And then, oh, the piece that goes on the front, I'm going to grab some A4 because I don't want to be wasting all my 12 by 12. I want you to cut, this is square, it's 6 3/4 inches square. So you want to cut it 6 3/4 inches by 6 3/4 inches. And then the inside large pocket is 11 by 5.5 inches. And I might... yeah. So that's 11 by 5.5 inches. Okay, we'll worry about the back afterwards. Evening, Susan. Okay, so what we need to do now is just grab our scoreboards. And we're going to start off with the first bits that we cut. Now, the first bit that we cut that was 10 by 10 or 10 by 9 7/8 we don't need to score that. We can just put that to one side. I'll put it somewhere where I'm not likely to lose it and get it mixed up with the other stuff. And then the other piece that we cut was 11 by 10. So I want you to score on the 11-inch side, which means that we put, that's going to be right in the way there, which means that we put our 11-inch side right at the top of our scoreboard. And I want you to score at 1/2 inch and at 10.5 inches. Okay, well that's a bit wobbly, but never mind. Okay, evening Gwen, evening Alison. Okay, so that's going to form our base page. Now, what we've got next is this flappy bit, which was 7 by 10 inches, and we're going to score on the 7-inch side. So that means put the 7-inch at the top. And I want you to score at 1/2 inch. And then I can't remember what I said. Was it 5/8 of an inch? I think it was 5/8 of an inch. So that's another 1/8 of an inch. So what you've got now on this is 2 parallel score lines that are really quite close together. Hi Bianca, guten Abend. So you've just got those two, it's a slight gusset. It's just a little gusset, okay? A slender gusset. I don't have one of those. Right, okay, then we've got this piece that is 6 1/4 squared. What I want you to do with this is score at 1/2 inch on 2 sides so that the score lines intersect. So I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on that side, whop it round 90 degrees and score at 1/2 inch on that side. So what I've got is just 2 score marks there where they intersect. Okay? Then what we've got left is our pocket, which is a terrible mess. God knows where that piece of paper's been. And I'm going to score on the 11-inch side at 1/2 inch and at 10.5 inches. And I'm going to scoot that round and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the 5.5 inch side. So this is forming just our ordinary basic pocket. But we're going to cut that down in a minute and we're going to add some acetate. Okay? So you can put your scoreboard away for now because we don't need it. Right. So let's do the cutting bits first because just to get them out of the way. So what I've got here is this long pocket that I've just cut. And as you can see, I've got my 3 intersecting score lines there. That's where we're going to fold to make the pocket. But I need to cut a bit of this out so that I can add some acetate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure a frame like we had, evening Emma, like we had on the very, very beginning on the first pocket that we made. So like this pocket here, what we're going to do is cut this out here. So we've got that acetate pocket there. Okay. Hi Charmaine. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab your ruler and a pencil and I'm going to draw this on the back side of my pocket. Okay, so this is the bit that I'm not going to see. So I'm not bothered about the fact that I've messed up my card there. And I am going to measure in 1 inch from the score line. So it could be 1.5 inches in from the very edge of the card, but I'm just choosing to do it 1 inch in from the score line. And I'm going to mark that there so that I can see now that that's where my frame is going to be. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to measure in 1 inch from the score line there and there. And I will show you this in a bit closer so you can see it before I cut it. And then I'm going to do the same at the bottom. So I'm going to score in 1 inch from that bottom score line, like that. So I don't know if you can see here now that what I've got is I've got a pencil mark where my frame is going to go, and I'm going to cut that out and I'm going to replace it with some acetate. So I'm just going to grab my knife, and for Mark's sake I will grab my safety ruler, and I'm now going to cut out that bit of my pocket. Okay. Yes, do use a mat. I've given up now with mats because I've already wrecked this backing. So I've damaged it already. Okay, so keep this bit that you're cutting out because it might just do for a tag. Okay, so I'm cutting that out. So what I've got now is this frame that is going to form my pocket. But what I need to do is put a little bit of acetate in. So I'm just going to measure. That frame is around 8 by 4 inches. So I'm going to cut a piece of acetate at 9 by 4.5 or thereabouts. It doesn't matter that much. Grab some acetate, which is now all static. What did I say I was cutting it at?
9 by 4.5.
9 by 4.5. That's about right. So 4.5. By 9. Ooh. Okay, so that's my piece of acetate. And that is going to fit over there like that, so that I've got a nice clear front to my pocket. So I'm going to grab some tape. I would thoroughly recommend that you use your red tape for this, something really, really strong. You could use a glue like Glossy Accents, but to be honest with you, I don't think you can beat the tape. I haven't got red tape, so I'm using this weird polyester one that is covered in cat hair. But it just shows how sticky it is.
It's even stickier, isn't it?
It's very covered in cat hair. So I'm just going to put that now. I'll probably need to cut it because it's really strong tape. Just on the inside of that frame. Like that. I'm going to get my bone folder. Bone folders are in the house, by the way. They arrived today. Hoorah. Hoorah. So, big boners, ladies. Take off that tape. And, ignore the cat hairs. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to line up this acetate to the top of that frame there. So I know you can't see this very well at the moment, but I'm just going to make sure it's straight on that side and put it across. Yeah, well, it's near enough. I'm not going to mess with that now. Oh, what a mess. I am going to mess with that now. There we go. Pretend you didn't see that bit. It's nearly as good as when I tore the Tyvek. Okay.
You tore the Tyvek?
I did oh, for goodness sake. I did tear the Tyvek. Okay. Yeah, well, that's not quite straight. I'm going to have to straighten that up now. Hang on. I'm not a perfectionist, but that is too far out of line. Okay. Right, so what I've got now is my acetate goes right to the top of my pocket, and it's nicely attached. So when I turn it over, there's my pocket and there's the acetate. So that's the worst of it done. Now we have one more thing to cut before we start to put everything together. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab that square that was 6 1/4, was it, inches square? 6 3/4. And what I want you to do is I want you to measure in 2 inches from each of the score lines, and I'll show, because these are going to be a little bit difficult to explain. I'm probably better showing you. So I've got my score lines intersecting here, and what I've done is I've measured in 2 inches from that score line, from the edge where that score line is, and 2 inches up there. Okay, so not where the score lines intersect, but from where they end, if that makes sense. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that bit off so that I get a nice shaped pocket. I really hope you can't hear this noise that's going on in the background, but I bet you can. I'm not going to tell you what it is. We'll have to have a competition. Because I swear they do it deliberately. Right, so now I've shaped my pocket. Okay, so I measured up 2 inches. Here's where my score line intersects. So that's the bit that we're going to mitre in a minute. That is 2 inches from the edge there, and the score lines across there. And then 2 inches from there and the score lines across there. So what I've got now is a nicely shaped pocket. Okay, nice and easy. Are we all right with that? All makes sense so far? See you later, Bianca. Okay, hi Sadie, hi Paula. Right, so are we all right so far? Okay, because now, oh, here's Loki. Hi Louise. Hello Loki, do you want to come and say hello? Loki's the one who doesn't normally come in. Unless he wants to be particularly annoying. So, what I want you to do is I want you to grab the 2 pieces that make up the base of our page. What, do the square pocket again. Hang on. I'll do it on white so you can see a bit differently. So I've got my square pocket, which is 6 3/4 inches squared, or 6 1/4, or whatever it was. I can't even remember now. 6 3/4. And I had my 2 score lines. I haven't even done that square. Oh, hang on. This one's going to be 6 1/4. Yeah, it doesn't matter what size it is, but I'm going to just do 2 score lines so that they intersect. So I've got 2 1/4 inch score lines, so they intersect like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure in 2 inches from that edge there and make a mark on my paper, and I'm going to measure in 2 inches there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to cut off that triangle there.
It's got no score lines on it.
So there's no score lines on either of those 2 lines there. So you've got your 2 score lines here and here, and they intersect in the bottom, and that's where we're going to mitre the corners to make our pocket. We've measured in 2 inches from that end, 2 inches from that end, and then that is where we're going to cut. So we're going to cut that piece off between those 2 2-inch marks, and that is going to give us our slanted pocket. Okay, Sue, does that help? So you're just measuring in 2 inches, and well, you can do whatever size you fancy, to be honest with you. Hi, Jill. All right, and then we'll mitre those corners in a minute, and that's how we'll attach that as a pocket. So I want you to grab the piece that we've got that we didn't score, and the piece that we did score with the parallel lines, and I want you to fold those flaps, and I want you to score them well. I mean burnish them well, because this is going to form the base of our page. Okay, now we've got this bit that we didn't score. It's 2 inches from the edge, Sue, but to be honest with you, it's entirely up to you. It doesn't make any difference. You can do it 1.5 inches, you can do it whatever suits. It's just, yeah, it's just that basically what it does is it just gives you that slant on your pocket. So it could be, if you want a bigger slant, you could just do it 1 inch. You could do it, just have a little corner off. It's entirely up to you. But I did mine 2 inches from the edge of the card, so it's 1.5 inches from the score line. Is that okay? Right? So now what I need to do is put this page together, and I need to remember which way round it was, because it should just fit in really nicely, because we've cut some of that down. If you remember, we cut it just under the 10 inches. See you later, Mel. We cut it just under the 10 inches because when you fold these over, it ends up, if you don't cut a little bit off, it ends up just kind of being a bit bulgy and doesn't quite sit right. So we still need the 10 across for the width, but we don't need the 10 the depth. We just need something slightly less. So as you can see now, mine fits in perfectly that way, but if I was to have done it 10 inches, it wouldn't quite have fitted. So that's why I just take a little slither off, okay? So now I'm going to put some glue on the inside of those flaps. I was using this glue earlier, so I know it's all right. Of course, now it's not going to come out, is it? I'm just going to put some glue on the inside of those flaps like that. And let's just make sure I get this right. Yeah, I'm going to pop that in and fold my flap over the top so that I make my base page. And just to make sure that it's adhered really well, I always like to go over it with my bone folder. Okay? And that is my base page made. Now, if you remember last week, oh, thunder, oh Dee, we had the most amazing thunderstorm a couple of weeks ago. It was absolutely incredible. Oh, Maxine, I'm sorry you can't stop, but thank you for popping in. That's always appreciated. So when I'm making my base pages, it's just something that I do. It doesn't matter, it's entirely up to you. But I always think that the front of my page is the bit where we don't have the flaps. So I always put the flaps on the back. So what you need to do now is we're going to add that flappy bit that goes on here. But just remember that you need to have your page so that the openings are left to right. Don't go and start doing it like that because we won't be able to put it in our book. It has to be an opening on the left and an opening on the right, okay? So I want you to grab this bit that we made earlier. This is the piece that was, I think it was 7 by 10, but we put those funny little quite narrow score lines in, that really narrow gusset. And I just want you to fold on your gusset. So what you're ending up with,
that's a 7 by 10 piece.
Yeah, I think it's 7 by 10. It's just a really, really, really small gusset there, okay? That's very badly folded. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop some glue on that bit of the fold there, and we're going to pop it inside. So what I would advise first is just simply just mitre the corners, the edges of your flap up to where that first score line is of the gusset. Evening, Enfys, how are you? Crafting royalty tonight, I tell you. Wow. And we're just going to pop a spot of glue down there on the top side of that flap. And what I want you to do with it is slip it into the right hand side opening and glue it to the top up to where that first score line is of the gusset. So what we've got now is a page that folds over like that with a very slight gusset, but we have still got our opening here and we've still got our opening here. Okay, so you've attached that to that bit of the page. You've still got, you've still got, you what, sorry?
To the inside front face.
Yeah, to the inside front face. You see, he's a technical bloke. He doesn't do flaps and gussets. He does technical stuff. All right, so that's really that page put together in terms of flaps and stuff. So what we need to do now, I think if we make this easy, what we'll do is we'll attach this little pocket that we've made with the acetate front, okay? So what we need to do is just mitre our corners, and it's a shame Mel's gone because we're going to do those kinky corners again. So I want you to snip up to where those score lines intersect. Just shift your scissors slightly in terms of an angle and then cut across. So what you've got there is a mitered corner, but it's not straight, because to me that always sits better than doing it straight across. And you're going to do the same on that side too, okay? So what you've got there is you've got your two corners mitered. Oh, Michelle, very nice. Have a lovely, lovely holiday. And when you get back, we'll want to see your book all finished. Okay, so folded in my flaps. I'm just going to get my down folder, and I'm just going to burnish those down. So now you can see we've got a proper pocket with this big acetate piece here. And what I'm going to do before I actually glue this down is I'm going to put my backing design paper on, okay? Oh, good, Michelle. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. So I'll hope to see you making loads more books then. I shall be very excited to see what you come up with. Right, so I'm going to stick that down there. So I know that this is 10 by 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my design paper and I'm going to choose a piece. I don't know how big that is. Probably smaller than 10. Yeah, quite a lot smaller than 10. Let's see what we've got. I wonder. No, that's too complicated to cut that down tonight. And I'm going to cut this down, but I'm not going to cut it 10 by 10 because I want it to fit nicely on my page with a bit of a border around it. So I'm going to cut it at 9 7/8 squared because that's always the way I do it. I always chop 1/8 of an inch off. So this is 9 7/8 of an inch squared. Now I am going to just quickly ink my edges because that's what I've been doing with these papers. I only need to ink them on 3 sides really because that's all you're ever going to see. And now I'm going to glue this here onto that page like that. Because when I put my pocket on, it's just going to make it so much easier. Okay, so let's pop that on there. Make sure it's equal all the way round. Okay, so there's my backing paper, and now I'm going to glue my pocket on top. So you see how much easier that is to do it that way round. So I'm just going to pop some glue onto the flaps of my pocket. And I'm going to pop that on top there. And I'm going to make sure that it sits right at the very bottom of my page. And it will sit right across. Okay, so I've still got my 2 openings there and there. And now I've got my pocket with the acetate front. And that's all attached now. Now we want to add our funny shape pocket, our slanted pocket, but I'm going to put it on here. So once again, it is easiest to pop my design paper on first. So as I recall, this was a funny size, right? It's about 6 1/4 inches. So I'm going to use the other side because I like that. And I am going to cut that at just under 6 1/4, so 6 1/8. By 9 7/8. Just going to ink the edge. This time I'm going to do it all the way around because it's just easier. And I'm going to glue that on there like that. With most pockets, it doesn't matter not sort of like putting the matted paper on first, the design paper. But when they're a little bit of an odd shape or you've got the acetate on, I just find it easier just to get that done first. Right, so let's just attach that. Okay. And now I'm going to attach my funny shaped pocket. You can put it either way. You can either put it that way round or you can put it that way round. It's entirely up to you. But the first thing we have to do is mitre where these where the score lines intersect. So once again, I'm going to cut down to where the score lines intersect. Just turn my scissors a little bit. And now I've got my mitred corner. And I'm going to fold those flaps over. Now, not necessary, but when you've got a strange shaped pocket where it's not enclosed on all the way round, I'm just going to snip those bits of the flaps off because it just, there's less likelihood of them showing, the edges of them showing. Not 100% necessary, but I like it to look tidy. Okay, so that is my pocket. And because it's square, it doesn't matter which way round it goes. I know, I thought that through. So what I'm going to do now is attach it to the front of my flap, and I'm going to attach it and it will fit straight across there like that. Okay? You can do it that way round if you want to, but just bear in mind that obviously you're going to be pulling pieces out of it, so it's entirely up to you which way round you do it. So put some glue on those flaps there. And then attach that pocket to the front of that flap. And glue it down. Oops, I just squished my gusset. That's not good. Okay, so that's all ready for matting now. So that's the front bit done. I'm just going to put some pattern paper here. I'm going to make another little frame like we did before for that one, remembering that that is 1 inch. So it'll be quite easy. That's all right. Wendy, I know you were attending to the cake, so it's fine. Don't you worry.
There's more.
So it's dead easy just to make a little frame for it. Okay, so that is the front of that page done. Now we're going to turn it over, and what we're going to make is 2 long pockets that sit on the back there, pointing that way, so that when the book's open, we can just take out long tags. But the way that I've decorated it here, you can see it doesn't look like 2 separate pockets. It looks just like one. But if you look really closely, I don't know if you can see here, you can actually just about see that that is 2 separate pockets. Okay? So we're going to do it in exactly the same way as we've done the pocket on the front, and we're going to add some acetate. So if you put your pocket that you've done to one side and grab your trimmer we can make the pockets, and I'm pretty certain you can cut these out of A4 size paper so as not to use all of your 12 by 12 cardstock. And I want you to cut 2 pieces at 9.5 by 6 inches. So 9.5 by 6 inches. Okay, so I want you to grab your scoreboard next. Ooh, knocking things off here. And we're just going to score these as long pockets. So on the 6-inch side, which means the 6 inches at the top of our scoreboard, I want you to score at 1/2 inch and at 5.5 inches. Scoot it round 90 degrees onto the 9.5 inch side and score at 1/2 inch. And it's exactly the same with the other pocket. So on the 6-inch side, score at 1/2 inch and at 5.5 inches. Scoot that round and score on the 9.5 inch side at 1/2 inch. So what you've got here are 2 long pockets with intersecting score lines at the bottom. Okay? Evening, Ellie. So once again, we need to make a little frame for our acetate. I just want to double check, but I'm pretty certain I did that at 1 inch as well. Yes, I did. So this time we're going to measure in again from where the score line is, because that's just easier. And I'm going to measure in 1 inch from each of these score lines so that my frame is going to be 1 inch all the way around. Okay, so you can see here, that's where I've got my frame, and I'm going to cut that out now. Look, safety ruler, knife. And I'm just going to cut that bit out. And remember again, nothing's wasted. We can use that middle bit for tags. I've given you some ideas for tag sizes on the 2nd page of the cutting guide for tonight. But to be honest with you, it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. I've just done the guide for what I had in my original office hours book, but you can do whatever takes your fancy. Okay, so that's my pocket with a very badly cut out frame, my bad. All right, so that's, and we're going to do exactly the same on the other one. So I'm going to measure in 1 inch from my score line. And 1 inch from the bottom score line as well. Okay, so I've drawn my frame, and once again I'm going to cut that out. Oh, better use my proper ruler before I get into trouble. Okay, so those are my 2 pockets for the back of page 3. Now I'm just going to quickly measure. I need to cut 2 pieces of acetate at 4 by 8.5 inches. So let me just see if I've got some more. So I want 2 at 4 by 8.5 inches. Okay, same procedure as before. I'm going to put some of the very sticky tape. Mine's covered in cat hairs, but this is red tape, or I'm using polyester. Just pop that around the edge of your frame, on the inside of it, of course. Just make sure that's stuck down well. Take off the backing. See if I can do it better this time, shall we? I'm going to take a piece of acetate and I'm just going to attach that to the top so that it goes straight across. Not at all straight. That's going to be great because I'm going to have sticky bits on the side. But anyway, I've now got an acetate front on that pocket. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other one. So I'm going to stick it on the back. Stick it down. Find me another piece of acetate, and once again I'm going to stick this. See if I can get it right this time. Side to side. Onto my pocket like that. Okay, finally the last one's the best one, typical. All right, so there's my pocket. Now, exactly the same way as we do any other pocket, I'm going to miter those corners, so snip up to where the score lines intersect, change the angle of my scissors and snip it across, so kinky mitering. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Now, I'm just looking at this and I can see that I've got far too much tape on this. And that means that when I come to put my tag in the pocket, it's going to stick. So I'm just going to get a little length of acetate and I'm just going to stick it over where I've got the tape showing, and then my tag won't stick to it when I come to put it in. Okay, so just bear that in mind. If you haven't lined it up properly, you don't want to have a sticky edge. Right, so fold on the score lines. Burnish it well. I really need to replace the top of this desk now. I have an arthritic cutting on it. I can't turn it over because I've got ink and everything on the other side. Okay, so I've got a nice long pocket, and the same with the other one. Now, after we've glued them in, we have to decorate this, and I'm going to show you a cheat that I bet you haven't noticed on my book, but it is a cheat. And I'll show you why you won't have noticed it and what I did to make my life easier without having to measure loads, and how I got around it so you didn't notice it. Because we don't want to be making life difficult for ourselves unless we have to, do we? Mm. Right, so here is my page that we've just done. So I'm going to turn that onto the back, and I'm going to make sure that I have got my openings left to right, and I'm going to pop these pockets on. Now, just bear in mind when you're putting them on that they need to point outwards. So this is the opening of our book on this side, and this is where it attaches to the book on this side. It is quite important that we do it the right way around, because otherwise it's not going to look right. We're going to have trouble with our tags, and it'll just make life... your book won't look so nice, and it'll just make it really difficult trying to get the tags out. So do make sure that you get it right. So the opening of your pocket is going to be on the left hand side. So glue this pocket onto the back of your page 3 like that, with the opening on the left. Okay. Oh, don't do that. And we're going to do the same with the other one, and we're going to attach it. It should butt up quite nicely. Doesn't matter if it doesn't 100%, because we're going to cover where they join anyway, so you can't see. But that should just butt up there to the top of your page, like that. Okay, so you've got 2 pockets here for some big tags. And I've used my tags as a bit of a design feature on the book, so I'll show you. My tags, there's 2 tags in here, and they actually form part of the design of the book. So as you know, we've got 3 different sized pages. So with the inserts, it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the tag's 5. So it looks like you've got a lot more pages in there than you really have. So you know, that's why this page is going to look short when we put it in the book, but it's our tags that are going to make that bit of interest in the back of the book. Okay, now I told you about a cheat. When I decorated up this back bit, I decided that trying to measure all of this and keep it right was just, quite frankly, going to be a pain in the proverbial. So what I did was I did a strip down there, a strip down there, and a strip down there, and then that was one more strip. But you can't tell that, can you? You didn't know that until I told you. So I think we can be our own worst enemies and so critical but actually it made life so much easier. I've put this little cluster on top of that there, so you can't really see you know, so much that it's a separate piece of paper. And because it's so similar to this, it looks like it's all one piece. But just don't go making life difficult for yourself. That's my opinion. Okay, so that, ladies and gents, is page 3 complete. So, do you know what? We should have actually, well, it might have helped actually if we put the design paper on underneath first. Right, it doesn't matter. But you need to decorate that up. Okay, so the next thing that I thought we could do, if we've got time, what time is it? 52, is have a look at the inserts. Now, you've got your cutting guide for the inserts. And what I've said, and I'll just show you these. Let me just find my list. Is you've got here, right, inserts page 1 front. These are these little inserts here now, and there's 4 of them, but you can put as many in or as few in as you want. Now, in the office hours book, what I did was I put tab tops on them. You don't have to do that. I'm not doing it in my other one because tab tops is kind of irrelevant, really. It's a farmyard book, so tab tops aren't really fitting. I'm just cutting those to size. But I cut 4 of those. The way that I did my tab tops was I used my, I think, is it We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch. And I will show you how to do that in a moment, if you want to know. And then this insert is simply folded. And this is the one that's 11.5 inches by 9.5 inches. And it's got 1 score line in. And then it's got the tab tops, which, you know, like I said, are entirely up to you. You don't necessarily need to have the tab tops if you're not doing a book where that's appropriate. Then in the back here, I've got a couple of just plain tags. And as you can see, they've just got rounded corners. Nothing special about those at all. Inside here in the stack pocket, we've got 3 tags, which I've given you the full sizes for. Okay, so we've got 3 different size tags in there. But you can put, I mean, I've only put 3 in, but there's room for more. All different sizes, but I've just given you the sizes that I've used here. Okay. And then on the back here, obviously we've got our belly band with the waterfall on, but there are a couple of tags that just go behind the belly band. And I've given you the sizes for those, but most sizes will fit. Then here on our slanted pocket, I've just put 3 little tags and I've put the sizes in for these. And then in this pocket here, I've got another 3 tags that I've made, and they're all the same size. Okay, and those go in there. And then in the back here, like I said, I've got these long tags here that I've decorated up. They're actually all the same size, but I've just, when I put them into my pocket, I just slanted it slightly so that it looks like they're staggered sizes, but they're not. And that is really, in terms of tags and the book, that's finished. So next week, what we're going to do is we are going to put the pages inside the book and we will take a look at the cover, and I'll show you how I did that. But before I go, if you've got one of these We Are Memory, I think it's We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch boards, I'll just show you quickly how you can make the tab tops. So this is the punch board that I'm talking about, the envelope one. And to make each of the tab tops, what I did was I took my card, my insert, and I made a cut with the board. And what I did was I just put the first one up to where the opening is here. I put my card into halfway where that opening is, and I just punched. So I've got that edge there. Okay, you can see that. Then what I did was I moved my card along so that this lined up with the 2-inch mark here, and then I just punched it again. So what I've got now is that groove there. Then I took my knife and my ruler and I simply cut that piece of card off because it was redundant essentially. And that, I've just made a right pig's ear of that because I pulled it. But that is how I made my tab tops. So I'll show you again. Here in the punch board, if you pop your card in so it's just halfway and then punch it, move it up to the 2-inch mark here, punch that again, and then I'm just going to cut out.
What if you haven't got a punch?
Well, you know, I've been wondering about that myself, and to be honest with you, I've just drawn them. You can do it, but it just takes a bit of measuring. So here's the edge of my card, all right? I am going to measure in 1/2 inch on each side of that corner. So I don't know if you can see, but I've got those 2 marks there, and I'm just going to use my scissors just to cut that off. So I've now got a slanted edge. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 1.5 inches, and then down here I'm going to measure 1/2 inch. If I just draw myself a little guide, there, straight down, if I measure in 1/2 inch, I know this sounds complicated, I'm probably making it more complicated than it needs to be, there. So I'm going to join that bit to that edge bit, and I'm going to cut that there. And then if I cut a slant between those two, that will give me my tab top. Okay, that's one way. Yeah, D, you're right. You can just draw it. Just use a file folder to draw around it. But that's just another way. It just means a bit of measuring. But that's quite an easy way to do it. Okay, I hope that was helpful. So decorate up, base decorate up your pages, because next week the first thing that we're going to do is put them inside our books. If you want to make your inserts and decorate those, feel free. And next week we should be able to finish this book off. So thank you very much for joining us. We will see you back here at 7 o'clock next Thursday, which is the 30th. So wishing you all a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.